What is up, all you individuals out there? It's me, full-time anime man. Now, I'm sure most of y'all were probably not even wondering where I've been for the past month because, hey, life goes on for everyone. But I understand, I don't need to apologize or anything, or nor do I need to explain why. But, I feel like this is a lesson learned, and it's something that everyone should know, and that they should keep in their minds. Recently, a family member of mine passed away that I was very close with, an uncle of mine who was the best uncle of all time. He was more than just an uncle, he was my best friend. And sadly, I ended up losing him in a car accident. I haven't seen him in about 6 years because he went to jail and then he got out and then tried to get his life together, but then he had a car accident that took his life. I really wanted to see him again, but looks like I'll never get that chance. Life is very short for every person on this planet, and you need to cherish the people and the things that you have in your life. I just really needed to say that. So, yeah, without any further ado, this is What If Deku. Without any further ado, this is What If Deku had the Project Power Pills, Part 5. I hope you all enjoy. Where we last left off, Izuku had gotten beaten by a mob boss who goes by the name of Surge. After giving him a good fight, Surge offered Izuku a chance to join him, but Izuku turned him down. He left him his business card in case he changed his mind, and Izuku was being pursued by the pro-heroes and police. But he used his charisma to help him escape. His mother, Inko, confronted him about his weird behavior, and Izuku shows his mother that he is manimal and she kicks him out of the house. When time passed, Izuku went back into patrolling one night, and Izuku got into a fight during his fight, it was interrupted by Bakugou, who vowed to learn the truth of Izuku's secrets. Izuku sighs. Bakugou, what the hell are you doing here? Get out of here, it's dangerous. Bakugou approaches Manimal and says, "Tell me your deku." Izuku growls and says, "Get out of here." Bakugou's hands start emanating with explosions and he lunges at Manimal, and the two fight. Izuku manages to beat Bakugou in the fight because of his physical strength and his agility, and enough to dodge his explosions. And after 4 minutes, Bakugou would get some distance between him and Manimal to catch his breath. Suddenly, Izuku's watch started beeping and then he went back to normal. Bakugou's eyes widen. He starts huffing and puffing with anger. "I knew it. You are Manimal, Deku." Izuku quickly turns around and he tries to run away, but then Bakugou ushers at him and tackles him to the ground. "Let go of me! Let go of me," said Izuku. "You had this quirk all this time and you didn't show me?" Oops, might have broke my thing. "Why? Is it because you think you're better than me?" "Get off of me, Bakugou." "I cannot believe after all these years." Izuku then moves his feet underneath Bakugou and then kicks him off of him while saying, "I said get off!" Bakugou then flew back a few feet and Izuku quickly returned to his feet, trying to run away again, but Bakugou tackles him to the ground. But Izuku still had use of his hand and punches Bakugou in the face, making him get off of him. Izuku faces Bakugou and Bakugou faces Izuku, and the two would engage in a fist fight. And though Izuku had gotten stronger over the months that he had been training with the power pills, Bakugou still had more fighting experience than him, in which he had the upper hand on Izuku. Izuku falls to the ground while being pinned. Izuku, with a few bruises on his face, tries to crawl away from Bakugou, but Bakugou plants his foot in the back of Izuku, making him stay in place, saying, "This is the great manimal that so many villains are afraid of? Why don't you give me a real fight worth, huh, Deku?" Izuku continues to weakly try to crawl away, but Bakugou stops him again. "Please, just stop." Bakugou refuses to let Izuku go, and he demands that he use his powers on him. Izuku would reach into his pocket trying to take out a tiger pill, but instead he pulls out a panther chameleon pill. It's not what he wanted, but it's something that he needed to use to escape. Bakugou sees this and asks, "What's that?" But he sees Izuku take the pill, and his skin color starts to change from white to a lime of green. He sees his skin texture change from smooth to scaly. And then he sees his head takes the odd shape of a sort of cone. "What the hell is it? Oh!" Bakugou was slapped in the face by Izuku's tail, and just about the time that he regained his composure, he looks around to see that Izuku had disappeared. "Where did you go? You coward! I will find you! That I promised you, Izuku!" Bakugou then starts running when he hears the sounds of sirens heading towards them. And when he is gone, Izuku walks back into the light, turning his skin color back to normal, quickly grabbing his clothes and his belongings and running away. He then gets back to his resting spot, just on time as he's getting back to normal. When he got into his tent, he started breathing heavily out of anger because Bakugou bested him again. Suddenly, Izuku heard a voice calling his name out of concern. It was Haru. Hey Haru. "Hey kid, are you okay? What happened to you? You have all those bruises." I got jumped on my way back here." "Oh, well, that's awful. Do you know who did it?" "No, I don't. But Haru, can I get some advice from you?" "Sure, what's on your mind?" Izuku would go on to tell Haru about a guy who's been bullying him, leaving names out of it, and he feels like he needs these sort of power boosters in order to help him fight back. Haru would think about what Izuku had just said and says, "Well, before I answer, can I tell you something?" "Sure, what is it?" Back in my day, when quirks were just barely manifesting, in my fights, we always used these. He puts up both of his fists. Nowadays, you kids are always looking to use your quirks in a fight. Well, actually, I do have a quirk myself, but that's not important right now. Be that as it may, you want to use these physical boosters is just a way of you wanting the easy way. But in real life, there is no easy path. Do you think you're a man with these so-called power boosters? Izuku peeks into his bag of power pills and looks back at Haru and says, "I can be a man without him." Haru asks Izuku to stand up and put up his fists. He then pointed out the flaws within his fighting stance, telling him to raise his arms up to protect his head more, and to keep his feet spread out for balance. "There. Now you're ready for a fight. Now, even when you lose a fight, I want you to remember these words. You win some, you lose some. But when you live to fight another day." And to give you a little more advice, bullies only do what they do just so that they could feel stronger. So of course they're going to pick on those who they think won't be able to fight back. But when push comes to shove, Izuku, you need to push back harder and fight. But you must never take solace out of getting back at your bully. Otherwise, you're going to end up just like them. You'll just lose yourself. Keep all that in mind, Izuku, and you'll be alright. Now, good night. Izuku stands there, completely taken by Haru's advice, and has a lot of respect for him. When he had finished, he crawled back into his tent, took an axolot pill to heal him up, and he slept easy that night, but not before telling himself that I could be strong without these pills. A few hours of resting, Izuku was awakened by the screams of a woman wanting help. Izuku quickly gets out of his tent and investigates and sees a group of delinquents harassing one of the homeless women, trying to steal her belongings. Others step out, but they were just watching. They weren't helping or anything. Izuku thought to himself that he needs to get to a tiger pill, but everyone would see him and it would just blow his cover. And so he decided to run over there and defend the woman. There were about 4 delinquents. There were 4 delinquents. Izuku steps in anyway. One of them tried to attack Izuku with what appeared to be a ball of light, just shooting it at him, but Izuku dodges and places his fist in the stomach of the delinquent that threw the ball at him. He falls to the ground in submission, and Izuku prepares himself for an even bigger fight, but then, as they were charging at him, Haru leaped in between Izuku and the delinquents. Haru. I thought I told you kids not to come back and harass these people. One of the delinquents spoke up, saying that they didn't care what he said. He may have bested them the last time, but this time they were more ready. Haru sighs and says, "So, you refuse to learn your lesson? Very well then." Haru prepares himself for a fight, and Izuku, wanting to join in, was told by Haru himself to stay out of it. Their fight begins, and Izuku watches as Haru lays waste to all 4 of the delinquents. He was doing backflips and fast punches. It was almost as if he was a karate master. Izuku was amazed of his speed and his agility and everything that he did. It was almost as if he was Bruce Lee. By the time he had ended the fight, without even saying the word, all 4 of the delinquents were limping away, and everyone, including the woman that was being harassed by the delinquents, were thanking him for his help. Everyone goes back to their tents to sleep, but Izuku couldn't sleep. He had so many questions for Haru, and he asked him, how did he learn to fight like that, and how is he not a pro hero? Haru would hush Izuku, taking him aside and telling him how he knows this stuff. About 20 years ago, I was a martial arts master, and I won. I'm sorry, that's not in the script. Back in 1990, I was a martial arts master, and I've won every single fight. And my sensei was the kung fu master himself, Bruce Lee. He was my biggest inspiration, and he taught me everything that I knew. And on the day that he and his son died, it was up to me to keep his fighting legacy alive. And what better than to fight in every martial arts tournament and win them all? And then I had a family, a wife and a 6-year-old daughter. They were my whole world, but then Haru pauses in mid-sentence. Haru, it's okay if you don't want to talk about it. You've said enough. Let's just get some sleep. Haru starts to tear up and says, "Thank you, Izuku." And the 2 walk back to their tents, And Izuku tries to fall asleep, but he was still practically on the edge of his seat, wondering what happened to Haru's family and what happened to his fighting career. Izuku did not sleep for the rest of the night, and the rising of the sun came, and Izuku had to go to school. About a few hours into school, Izuku was barely keeping his eyes open, for he felt very tired. and just about more time that had passed, he received a strange text from Travis. Though he was in the middle of class, he went ahead and looked at the text. When Izuku read the text, it nearly sunk his stomach, for it felt like Travis didn't have much time to properly say the words. But the text read, Izuku, help, USJ, attack. Izuku quickly stood up and asked his teacher where the USJ was, and though the teacher was confused, he told Izuku where the USJ is. Izuku would go on to tell his teacher to send police officers there, for he thinks that it may be under attack. Without even saying anything else, Izuku ran out the door, not minding that he looked suspicious. When he reached the exit, he took out a power pill that had the color pattern and silhouette of a cheetah. He then takes the pill and he gets cheetah powers, changing his appearance into a half-man, half-cheetah. He sprints as fast as he could to his resting spot to get more power pills, and then soon he reaches the USJ. When he got there, he heard a lot of commotion, and when he tried to open the door, he found that he couldn't open it, for it was locked. He thinks quickly, and then he looks up and sees that the roof is a dome, and that it is made of glass. Sorry. Letting the cheetah power pills wear off, Izuku took a spider pill and climbed up the walls. Looking down, he sees what's going on inside. The villains were everywhere, and students were defending themselves. Izuku knew that he had to get in there, and with the thick glass, it was going to be a real obstacle. So, he took a gorilla pill, and with his his muscles expand out, and with all of his might, he then smashes the glass, and everyone looks up and sees this gorilla man jumping down. It is at this point that some of the students were spread around the USJ, and soon Gorilla Izuku landed at the exit of the USJ. Kurogiri, Ida, everyone you can think of was there. Without even saying anything, Izuku turned around and then bashed the door open, giving everyone a chance to escape. He yells at them to run, and they all head their way out the exit. But just as Izuku was going to face off Kurogiri, Uraraka ran past him, and and by accident he said, "Hey, Uraraka." Uraraka said in a confused voice, "What? How do you know my name?" "Oh, crap. Just go." She runs, and Izuku lunges at Kurogiri, but he disappears into thin air. Izuku was confused, but brushes it off and tends to the injuries of 13, who was on the ground. He tried to offer her an axolot pill, but it looked like she didn't have a mouth. 13 would go on to tell Izuku about other students around this place who are in need of help. Izuku would tell her to hang in there, for help is on the way. He runs off, and Izuku, still having his gorilla and spider powers, would use them in a fight against the villains that tried to challenge him, only to be taken down with one punch, or to be restricted, or to be tied down by his webs. That's what I meant to say. When he reached the ground, he heard a scream of what sounded like a little girl. He followed the sound, and it led to a boat in the center of a large body of water. Izuku leaps towards the boat, just barely making it, and grabbing onto the edge of the boat and then climbing aboard. He then looks around for the girly scream, and when he turned the corner, a purple ball nearly hit him in the face, followed by a tongue that swung at him that just barely missed him. He looks, and he sees a girl that took on the appearance of a frog girl, and a 2-foot-tall boy who had purple balls on his head, and also let out the girlish scream. In other words, Izuku found the source. Which means that he was the source of the girly scream that he was looking for. They tried to attack him, with the frog girl swinging her tongue at him, only for Izuku to catch it in mid-air, telling her to stop. The Purple-headed one then continues to throw purple balls at him, with one sticking to his arm, and Izuku then lifts his foot up and stamps it to the ground of the boat as hard as he can, causing it to shake violently and to tilt, and then maintain its steady length. I came here to help you, so why don't you stop attacking me? I was called here by a friend, so do you want to stay here, or do you want to come with me and live? The two then looked at each other and nodded. They then went on. Well, Izuku then carried them to dry land, leaping there. Izuku then puts them down and yells at them to run towards the exit. Izuku hears more fighting in the distance and follows them. Soon he comes across a part of the USJ where it is called the Rockfall Zone. Upon entry, his gorilla and spider powers timed out, and he goes back to normal, taking 2 tiger pills, giving him 10 minutes of tiger power. He ushers in and sees 3 teenagers fighting against a bunch of adults, and I shouldn't have to say what is wrong with that, because there's a big problem with that. Anyway, he rushes in and assists them, although they mistook him as the enemy and would attack him, even though he was clearly fighting the real enemies and helping them. Stop attacking me! I'm trying to help you! One of the teens with blonde hair with a black streak zigzagging across his head says, ladies, I think he's actually trying to help us. A girl with purple hair spoke up, saying, even so, we can't take the chance. And just in case you forgot, that's Manimal. He's dangerous. She then lunges what appears to be an ox cord towards Izuku, and Izuku's animal instincts kick in, warning him of danger, and so he uses a large rock as a shield, getting the ox cord to connect to that rock, and he uses the paralyzing technique into the rock, and since Jiro has enhanced hearing, she was definitely able to hear that, paralyzing her. As Izuku finishes off what was left of the villains, he then approaches the 1A students with a huff and a puff of exhaustion. Listen, when somebody is fighting to protect you, it pays off to not attack the person who, while they're fighting to save your lives. Izuku took in a deep breath to calm himself down. They all looked down at the purple-headed girl, wondering what he had done to her, but he explains that he simply just paralyzed her, to which she will move in a matter of a few minutes. But for now, I need to get you all out of here. He then picks up the purple-headed girl and they all run towards the exit. When they reach the door, Izuku handed the purple-headed girl to the blonde-headed one, telling them to leave. He then runs off, but not before the blonde-headed one actually thanks Izuku for saving them. It's no problem, said Izuku. Now go. Soon Izuku finds himself in the pouring rain area and he looks at his watch and sees that he has 5 minutes left. When he turns the corner, he saw Travis and 2 other students fighting, one who had a very strange-looking head and one who had the head of a bird. Izuku jumps into action, taking a few of them down. Some of them were like, what the hell? Is that Manimal? What is he doing here? Even the UA students were wondering the same thing. When it came to an end, Izuku approached the students and said, hey, try to be careful next time. They all nodded their heads in agreement. But Travis couldn't help but notice something familiar about Manimal. He wasn't sure what it was, but this is the first time he's seeing him in person other than videos and pictures. He looks deep into his eyes, but just as he's about to process what was so familiar about him, Manimal told them that they need to leave. They then run towards the exit, and when they got there, the first thing that Izuku saw was a large bird-like creature sneaking up on the Eraser hero Aizawa. He told the boys to quickly run towards the exit, and they headed towards there, and Izuku headed towards Aizawa. When he reached him, he was a millisecond too late, and the muscular bird thing slammed Aizawa's head into the ground, making his head bleed and causing the ground to crack. Izuku then tackles him away, but the two are at the same strength level. The two then lock arms together, and Izuku growls at him. As Izuku looks into the eyes of his opponent, his irises shrink and shake out of anger. What the hell are you doing here? Suddenly, Izuku heard the familiar voice. Well, well, well. And here I thought you were only nocturnal. Izuku turned his head to see Surge. What the hell? Surge? Surprised to see me, Manimal? I sure am surprised to see you. A large amount of anger starts surging through his body, and Surge says, you know what? This may be a good opportunity to see what you're actually made of. Nomu, kill him. Izuku thought to himself, Nomu? What the hell is that? Suddenly he hears the creature that he was holding back let out a loud scream, and then the creature picks him up and then slams him into the ground, knocking all the air out of Manimal, and proceeds to lay down a barrage of punches on him. After a few punches, Izuku grabbed the Nomu's fist and would proceed to push it back up. He would then use his foot to then kick the Nomu in the face, breaking its beak. He quickly returns to his feet and wanting to go after Surge, but the Nomu charges at him once again. The two would exchange a few blows towards each other, and at one point, Izuku threw his claws at the Nomu's chest, leaving deep scratches, only to witness them disappear almost instantaneously. What the hell? This thing has a healing quirk? Surge would say, that's right, Manimal. Not to mention, he also has a shock absorption quirk and enhanced strength. This thing was made to kill All Might, so good luck with that. Well then, I guess I better pull out the big gun then. He then reaches into his back pocket and pulls out a mantis shrimp pill, and just as he's about to take it, I am here, can be heard from the doorway. It's All Might, standing there with his iconic smile. He then leaps into action while doing a backflip. He then looks at Surge, and then at Manimal, and then the Nomu. So, who am I fighting? Izuku rolls his eyes and says, them? Surge then smirks and he says, Nomu, keep fighting, Manimal. I'll take All Might. Izuku quickly takes the mantis shrimp and he dodges the Nomu's attacks. Surge and All Might would exchange a few blows at each other, and Izuku's fight intensifies now that his hits would be more damaging on the Nomu. But at the same time, his hits would also be injuring him, breaking the bones in his fists, but he fought through the pain. With each punch that he laid down on the Nomu, it would break a bone in his hand. But the good news is that with each hit that Izuku was laying down were so fast that whenever he punched the Nomu, he would also hit it with the temperature of the surface of the sun, which is 8,500 degrees. So with the intense heat, the Nomu's shock absorption quirk was depleted the second he started punching him. Izuku started The Nomu found itself unable to fight back because of exhaustion and Izuku's fast punches. Over at All Might and Surge's fight, All Might had a few bruises, but so did Surge. He got a quick glance of Izuku's fight and was impressed. Where was this fight when they first fought? His thoughts were interrupted when he was punched in the jaw by All Might. Oh, man, that was a good hit, but unfortunately, I'm gonna have to skedaddle. Our time is up. Korigiri, let's leave. Suddenly, a purple portal opens behind him while hearing, yes, sir. Surge steps through it, and the portal closes, leaving All Might confused, but he regains his thoughts and runs off to find Manimal or the Nomu. When he turns the corner, he sees the two fighting, and Izuku delivers the final blow. But he sees that his arms are really scuffed up. The Nomu is nearly defeated, and Izuku, well, as mentioned before, delivers the final blow. Battering his arm back, he then swings it in an uppercut motion while yelling, Texas Smash! Suddenly, a huge bubble of fire forms around the two, and it implodes into the Nomu's chest, causing it to fly through the ceiling and into the sky. Izuku falls to his knees, and his arms were broken. He then pants heavily, and All Might approaches him. So, you're the vigilante that I have been hearing about. I gotta say, you did a good job out there, but unfortunately, I have to take you in. I can also see that your quirk is very powerful, but in the process, it messes up your arms. Don't worry, we shall seek medical attention for you. Suddenly, he hears the voice of Katsuki Bakugo and Eijiro Kirishima behind him. While his back was turned, Izuku snuggly took an axolotl pill, healing his wounds, allowing him to make his daring escape. When All Might turned around, he realized that Manimal had disappeared. Where did he go? He was just here. From outside, Travis and everyone else was waiting to know what was going on. He looks over and he sees something crawling through the window and took a few foot drop, landing on their feet. He lets out a grunt, and Travis responds, "You!" Uraraka heard his voice and saw him run towards the alley where Manimal had fell. "Wait, Travis, where are you going?" No one else saw where they had went, so the two were in pursuit of Manimal. After a minute of chasing him, they noticed that Manimal was starting to slow down, as if he was getting exhausted. They follow him into another alleyway, and suddenly Manimal falls to the ground, getting his clothes dirty. He loudly pants, and Travis and Uraraka catch up to him. "Stop right there, Manimal! Your days of vigilancy are done." Uraraka looks closer at Manimal and couldn't help but notice that something wasn't right. He looks like he's on the verge of passing out, but at the same time he looks ill. But his breath gets heavier and heavier by the second. She gets closer and onto her knees. "Uraraka, stay away from him. He's dangerous." "It's alright." She then looks at Manimal and asks, "Are you okay?" Suddenly, Manimal starts shaking violently and as if he was getting hit with jolts of electricity. Uraraka backs up and Travis was about to attack, but then he sees that Manimal's figure starts to change into a familiar look. Both their eyes widen as they see Manimal change from a half-man, half-tiger to the boy that they have grown a bond with, Izuku. They gasp and their eyes widen. "Izuku?" Izuku breathes heavily on the ground, holding his hand up to his chest and says, "Please, help me." And that's where I'm going to leave it off. Now, if you are all a bit curious about what is going on with Izuku right now, basically, he did a mild overdose. Over the times that he has been taking these power pills, he has never taken more than 2 at the same time, and unfortunately, when he took that axolotl pill, it counted as him taking a 3rd pill while his tiger and mantis shrimp powers were active at the moment. So, he's going to need to be closely looked at for a while, but that's for next time. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this what if, and if you made it to the end of this what if, consider yourselves #blessed, and do remember what I said to cherish the loved ones that you have while you still have them. Have a nice day.